My name is Alan Steinfeld, and I had the honor of moderating one of the best discussions from Contact in the Desert 2017. It was a panel on ETs, consciousness, and spirituality. It was one of the most evolutionary discussions I remembered having. It included some of my favorite and some of the best experts in the field: James Gilliland, Laura Eisenhower, Graham Hancock, Dr. Desiree Hurtak, Dr. J.J. Hurtak, Tricia McCannon, Whitley Strieber, and Linda Moulton Howe. Now, from the main stage at Joshua Tree, California, comes that historic conversation.
Let's just start off with a general opening idea of equating this phenomena to something about consciousness. It's no longer about ships in the sky or the hardware. And there's a big change in people coming to this show over the last 4 years, where we've gone more towards this awakening of consciousness and what the phenomena, or whatever you want to call it, really means to each of us. So that's the kind of track I'd like to proceed on. And why don't we start with you, Linda? Because you're people don't know you're a mystic as well. No, she's had some amazing experiences. So go ahead. Thank you.
Well, the word consciousness, I guess, is at the root of what we're all trying to understand, what humans are in relationship to one or more intelligences that seem to have been manipulating this planet for a very long time, past, present, now, and future. And when I think of all the people that I've interviewed over the last 3 decades in the human abduction syndrome, I think that the bottom line is that they don't have a clue what they're really dealing with. And if the human abductees themselves don't have clarity on what is interacting with them, the rest of us are on the outside. But having said that, a lot of people in the human abduction syndrome will say that we have been being pushed by something out there that feels that we deserve to survive against other forces that think we should not survive. And that the whole key to that survival is going to be to rapidly change all of the consciousness of Homo sapiens sapien. And that is, I think, what is so important about Contact and the conferences where we come together and we are trying to address what consciousness do each of us have. And it's becoming so clear on planet Earth that the consciousness is not shared from person to person. And that makes us vulnerable to manipulation. If we could be told all the truth about our history and our present, it could change our entire relationship to ourselves and to this intelligence that I think has taken advantage of the fact that we were made, we are androids, but now something special is occurring, and that something is moving rapidly to change all of the world's consciousness, and it is as if our lives depended on it.
Well, thank you. Beautiful. Exactly. Wait, Whitley, I think you want to come in on that because it seems very much in alignment with what you're talking about.
Yeah, am I on?
Yeah.
Yes, good. I can come in on that. One of the things that has happened is that those of us who have this experience are pretty much all in the same boat. Not too many of us have an entirely beautiful experience or an entirely evil one. It's very complex and very mixed. And yet there's something about it that leaves you feeling that somehow, no matter what it is, you're in the presence of something quite sacred. And what does that mean? Does that mean it should be cherished? Well, it may, but it also means it should be watched very carefully, because what the sacred is that which knows its own truth. It knows its own truth. And so if you find yourself, as I have in my life, face to face with something that seems to be literally radiating evil, then you should care for that. You should be not fool around. You should think to yourself, well, yeah, this is somebody whose truth has turned out to be fairly unfortunate for them, and they're not happy. And then you find yourself face to face, as I have as well, with somebody whose very presence drives you into deeper and deeper question, who seems to kind of almost bubble with a sort of joy that is extremely serious at the same time. And you think to yourself, well, I want more of that. And Linda was talking about this manipulation, it is a manipulation. It's been going on for a very long time, I think. And it's time for us to take control of it. We need to do some manipulating too. And the way we do that is by seeing this very complex situation for what it is. Now, if I was speculating about why it's like this, and there are many shadings in between. People will talk to you about robotic beings, and I've had experiences with those too. I mean, we all pretty much in the close encounter experience have similar things happen to us. I've also had a lot of experience with a particular individual who's on the cover of Communion. I think it's one individual, although it could easily be I'm wrong, who was brilliant, extremely provocative, not afraid to challenge me to the point that I could have easily gone mad. Not afraid at all. Willing to do literally anything. But this individual showed something some true colors at one point that have resonated with me for the rest of my life. My brother was up at my cabin. This is many years ago when the visitors were coming almost every night. And I was showing him around, and I was really proud of the place and all the things I had done and my accomplishments. And he was a young lawyer just starting out in life. And, you know, I was the older brother. And an older brother is never necessarily good news to a younger brother. So I was taking him through the woods and showing him everything. And suddenly I heard a voice in my head, the voice of that being on the cover of Communion. It said, "Arrogance. I can do anything I want to you." And I thought, oh no, I'm in trouble now. Again, I'd been in trouble before, but so we went down into the clearing where the event had happened, and suddenly this UFO appeared in the sky, which we both saw, and my brother was just awed by it. I'd seen things like it before there, and I had frankly sort of hoped he would see something. But instead of thinking, oh my, isn't it wonderful, I am so cool, I thought, now I know I'm in trouble, but what will happen? Here's what happened. The next day, my bank called and said, "Mr. Strieber, we've got a lot of checks from you, but we don't know what to do with them." And I said, well, process them. He said, well, you don't have an account with us. I said, do you know me, don't you? We knew each other. We had on first name terms. And I said, yes, I do. He said, but I can't find the account. It's not in our system anymore. Did you change banks? I said, no, I didn't do anything. And I thought, this is it. They've made my money disappear. And I went through, after I hung up the phone, I realized I had in my pocket about $50, and that was everything. I had a family to feed, and my money was gone. And what would I do? Where would I get? I had no idea. I was just completely flabbergasted. Plus, there were all these checks that were going to bounce at the end of the day. So, yes, humbling. So I called the bank and I said, can you at least hold the checks overnight, because this has got to be your fault. You've got to find this account. It can't just disappear. They finally found it on a record in a special storage that the bank used in case of a disaster. And they restored it the next day. But I learned something very fundamental then, And that is that humility is really important, and it is to be respected. Everyone is to be respected, and everyone is as valuable as oneself. Everyone is.
Thank you.
So I'm finished, but I just wanted to...
Was there a final point, though?
Yeah, okay. The final point is this. Part of this experience is calling to us and making demands on us that we come to a better, higher level of consciousness and offering us help. And it's available in every life that wants it. You just have to ask, but be careful what you ask for.
Thank you, because you'll be tested, right? Tricia, you want to talk about your experiences as a contactee and also as a channel of sorts, as a leader of spiritual communities.
Oh, yeah, good. It's working. Hi, I'm Tricia McCannon, and it's great to actually be here. This is my first time at Contact at the Desert, although I have been speaking around the world for about 20 years. And, you know, when I first started speaking, I was actually heading up the UFO panels at the Whole Life Expo in about 10 cities for about the first 5 years. And some of these guys were actually on my panels. And one of the things that I saw in the beginning of the UFO movement, at least when I entered it 25 years ago, actually more than that, about 30 years ago, was that it seemed like there was a big division. The boys were all about the metallurgical samples. Have you noticed that? And the girls were much more about spirituality. So the guys were all about, you know, give me the machines and we want the layouts and, you know, how does it all run and how does it work? And the women were open to things like spirituality and angels and the interdimensionality of the whole thing. And for me, there's never been any separation. I think it's like the male brain that we all have, whether we're a man or a woman, and the female brain. And mastery is the activation of both parts of ourselves coming together, which is what opens the third eye.
Well, we have an even panel tonight. Look at that.
We do. We have an awesome panel. And I think that the UFO movement has come light years in the last 20 years. And now there are wonderful people like the men and women on this panel that are speaking on both subjects. For me, I have been a mystic, a clairvoyant since I was a little girl. I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, and I lived across my family from a great forest, and I could see the elementals in the forest. And I think that most people couldn't see them, and so they told those elementals, told the overlighting and angel of that forest to come and speak with me. So when I was 8 years old, this angel began to come and teach me about the great chain of being and how spirit is stepped down through these dimensional levels to where we eventually come into the physical world. And they also explained to me how everything has consciousness, that the universe is conscious. Now, there are varying degrees of consciousness, like there might be some people more conscious than we are. There might be some extraterrestrials more. We might be more conscious than a rock or a stone or a plant. But the consciousness is the common denominator throughout the entire universe. And consequently, we are all connected to one another. So in my experience as a child and a teenager and growing up, I had ongoing contact with beings from spaceships and angels and masters and divas and elementals. So for me, there was never any separation of these things because I was having experiences from these higher realms. Some of the beings were completely physical and human. Some of them come from the Pleiades. I remember when I was 7 years old, I was on a ship and there was a man in kind of like a space flight suit with a lit console behind him, and there was a huge dome above our head. And he said, you know, when you look into the stars at night, we come from a planet around one of those stars. I was like, well, that makes sense to me. You know, I'm 7 years old. Sure, of course. And I said, well, how long have you been coming to this planet? And he said, many, many times. We have been coming for eons. And he actually energetically touched my third eye, and I found myself back in time as a tall extraterrestrial man helping to build the entire underground complex at Giza. And this was in preparation for the time that we knew that Atlantis would go down. And throughout the years, like when I was 12 years old, a group of beings appeared at the end of my bed. And there were 5 of them, and they looked translucent in these beams of light. And, they were telling me that I wouldn't see them for a while. They said, you volunteered to come to this planet. You're an activator. You're one of many that have come to this planet at this critical time. And, you have a job assignment. You will see us later, but we're leaving now. So, see you later. Good luck on your mission. We'll check in from time to time. And that's why, when I've been able to take people out to call in ships, out of 33 times, 30 times physical ships have shown up because they keep tabs on me. So, that's just fine with me for them to keep tabs. I've also encountered beings that are profoundly, profoundly higher in consciousness that have eagle heads. One of them is really my great teacher. And, he was thought of as Horus long ago. Of course, he can take a human form. I've seen the cities inside the inner earth. They've shown me globes where the locations of the inner earth cities are. When I was 16, they took me in a ship and showed me the solar system, and the whole planet, the planetary system, was being moved up to a whole nother dimensional level, and there were people leaving the planet that weren't ready for that. They were deciding to leave or die, and there were other people coming to the planet, and there were all these ships parked around the planet, and they said, this is what's going to happen to your planet. This is long before the word ascension even hit our vocabulary. So it's a big conversation, and multidimensional consciousness is part of it. And the left brain and the right brain need to get married to each other so that we can sort of be on the same page with it.
Thank you. And I want to get back at some point to that thing, the idea you brought up that we're at a critical juncture. But let's continue with Dr. Hurtak in 1973. I don't know if people know this, but he had a transcendental experience. He actually had an ascension experience where, from the books and the conversations I've had with him, where he left this earth plane and he was in touch with what's called the ultra-terrestrials, and it was a dramatic transformation that I think changes one forever. Do you want to talk about that, Dr. Hurtak?
I would certainly like to do that with Desiree at my side. I was a formal academic until about 40-some years ago, when I began to take seriously the power of the mantrams used in Eastern and Near Eastern religion. And I began to use the holy names, and I had the series of experiences that led to the writing of a book most of you know as a metaphysical, paraphysical book of dealing with our human multidimensionality. And in this age of what I will call inner spirituality, we're seeing the boundaries being erased, and people's, not only from the east and west, but from the north and south, are coming together. And I would like to touch on this in terms of the experiential side. Desiree and I have shared with the shamans in Brazil, who believe the star people are coming back now because they can't wait for the intellectual games of the Northern Americans and Europeans to resolve these issues that we've lost, the unconditional love, the pulse that brings us all together. And so, Desiree, you might want to give your impressions.
Well, I was going to go back a little bit to what Tricia McCannon had said, is we originally worked a little bit with J. Allen Hynek, and it was really strange because he was looking for those nuts and bolts. But every time he went out and really did the investigation, like Pascagoula, Mississippi, he found aliens that would float, that would communicate with the brain, that had a message for the planet. And it was really difficult for him to put this together. When he went to South America, amazing things would happen in the midst of some of these contactees. And it was just confusing for people at that time. But I believe now we are at a critical threshold, and we are starting to put together an understanding that we are not alone in the universe, but, and the important thing is the but, there are many different levels of intelligence that are here and trying to contact us. And that's why it's hard to get the consensus, even though I think we're pretty consensual tonight, actually. It's amazing, because the fact is that some are here because they want to do medical experiments. They like our DNA. They like our souls. I know this is something Linton and Moulton House talked about. There's others who are here to help and assist us because of the changes going on this planet. And believe me, they are major. Part of our work with the Academy for Future Science, which is an international organization, has looked at like CO2 levels. Our levels of CO2 are much higher right now than they were at the last ice age. I mean, it's incredible. We're like going back millions of years to get the levels of CO2. Is it all from our car emissions? Probably not, because it seems, and that's the work of the Keys of Enoch, that the last 40 years, they've been preparing us for contact. And why is it not that they don't just land on the White House lawn? Because contact is so much more intricate and multidimensional.
It's not simply physical contact, but consciousness contact. And this is why we think of the consciousness shift going on. We're rediscovering ourselves as multidimensional beings. We're no longer locked in fixed science and religion. We're seeing an emergent spirituality, more authentic, more universal, and also requiring a sense of dedication to the whole human race. This is what I admire in the work of all of the panelists and presenters here. People have gone out of their way to look at the collective picture holistically, because the questions as to who's on first base or who are the good white hats or the black hats, these are elementary questions regarding those who have had opportunities to be briefly on the other side or with the higher spiritual guides and teachers. We are all part of a large cosmic university, and we're being prepared to graduate from Schoolhouse Mother Earth into this cosmic university.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And so, Graham, how does this transformation, this awakening fit into the ancient histories that you've been studying and the past and where we're at now in our critical time forward?
Okay. I'll come at that in a circuitous way. Okay, so I'm sitting in the Amazon jungle in the middle of a clearing. We've set up some benches in the clearing, and I have drunk a powerful visionary brew called ayahuasca. And as I'm sitting there and the ayahuasca begins to work, I go through the nausea and all of that, and I get into a deep, altered state of consciousness. Suddenly, I become aware of a group of, UFOs right above me. And I see this face, which is very like the face of a typical alien gray. And it's looking down at me from the sky. And I'm filled with terror. With ayahuasca visions, it's better to keep your eyes closed. If what you find is frightening, you can often block it by opening the eyes. So this is what I do. I open my eyes because I get the strong sense that they're going to take me, and I don't want to be taken. And I open my eyes and I say, no! Of course, what I should have done was kept my eyes closed and said, yes! Fear is never going to serve us in these situations. I was in the Amazon because I had become aware of remarkable similarities in art around the world. Going back deep into the human story, way back to the painted caves 40,000 years ago or more, and through the cultures of the ancient Egyptians, the ancient Greeks, coming into the modern age, and then shamanistic cultures all around the world. And there are astonishing similarities in the imagery that is presented, and I wanted to understand that. And then I came across some excellent academic work which had been done by Professor David Lewis Williams at the University of Witwatersrand in South Africa. And he really makes an excellent case that the similarities in this art all around the world can be explained if we understand that this is visionary art, that these artists are entering deeply altered trance states. They're then returning to the normal alert problem-solving state, and they're painting what they've seen in their visions. I got to know one of the Amazonian painters. He was an ayahuasca shaman, although eventually he stopped drinking ayahuasca. His name was Pablo Amaringo, great painter. And he painted his ayahuasca visions. And in his paintings, repeatedly, we see images of flying saucers and entities that look a bit like our idea of aliens. So I asked Pablo, why are you painting flying saucers? Is this what are they? What are these things? And he said something very interesting, which I've never since forgotten. He said, I said, are these vehicles for bringing, advanced technological beings here from other planets? He said, no. He said, what these are is vehicles for entering and leaving the spirit world. And when a shaman talks of the spirit world, he is just a hair's breadth away from the notion of parallel dimensions or parallel universes. And I wonder if it's not the case that reality in which we are immersed is vastly more complicated and nuanced than we imagine. We have a certain set of senses, our eyes, our ears, we hear, hearing, taste, smell, touch, and so on, the 5 senses. And we already know that it's a mistake to think that what we can see with our 5 senses is all of reality. Why do we know that? Because we can get out a microscope and see tiny stuff that we couldn't see with our naked eyes. So the notion that we can't see everything with our senses is a good notion. And the suggestion is that in deeply altered states of consciousness, we alter the receiver wavelength of the brain. And we allow the brain to gain access to other levels of reality that are normally closed off to us. And I have a feeling that that is part of what we are involved in the UFO and alien mystery. Whatever this is, it's something that goes back into the very origins of humanity. It goes back a very long way. Whoever these entities are, they have been with the human race as teachers for countless aeons. I also wrote a book called Supernatural, published in 2005, and the subtitle of that book is Meetings with the Ancient Teachers of Mankind. I think we're jumping too quickly to a materialistic conclusion to assume that those are just high-tech beings a bit like us who've conquered the crossing of interstellar space. In a way, I think that rather minimizes and diminishes the mystery. I think it's much more complicated and much more mysterious than that, and that we are interacting through many layers and many levels with all kinds of entities and intelligences. And maybe intelligence is not fundamentally physical. Maybe consciousness is one of the fundamental forces of the universe, like gravity or electricity. It's there. And maybe it's simply manifesting in physical form. In short, I think we should preserve our sense of mystery. We should open inquiries into human consciousness. Neuroscientists really don't know a lot about consciousness. They can't explain consciousness. We should open inquiries into consciousness, and we should use the shamanistic plants and fungi that have been available to our ancestors for tens of thousands of years as tools to inquire into this mystery of consciousness. In that way, I think we may get close to the answer to what the problem is. Just one last word on this. Rick Strassman at the University of New Mexico giving dimethyltryptamine, the most powerful hallucinogen known to man, to human volunteers. More than 50% of his volunteers had experiences that were indistinguishable from the experiences of UFO abductees. And here's what a number of them said without comparing notes. The entities they met in their deeply altered state of consciousness said this to them. They said, "We're so glad you've discovered this technology. Now we can communicate with you much more easily." Think about it.
Thank you. I mean, there does seem to be a sort of agreement among the panelists about there's this mystery that is unknown that we're trying to define, we're trying to put into a box, and it's in a sense unknowable. I mean, John Mack, who was a great inspiration for many people, he said, UFOs are like an outreach program from the universe for the consciously impaired. And that's us. So Laura, how do you pull this together from the spiritual understandings you have into the next step forward in our evolution?
Oh. Hi, everybody. I love sitting next to these folks. This is, spirituality isn't, something, foreign to us or something external or something we need to attain or sign up for. It's who we are. We're born that way. It's our natural organic state. Being a multidimensional being is, part of the quest, to know the self. And I've always been, an adventurer. My background's in wilderness expedition leadership, and I'm so grateful I spent so many years in the wilderness because it sharpened my intuition and made me really sensitive to programmings and BS. And I was already, really sensitive as a child. I was downloaded everything about my mission starting at the age of 4, 5, 6 years old. I had to consider myself living a double life because there's no way, nobody was talking about ascension, way back when. I've not changed a bit. I'm still talking about the same stuff. I just have different terminology. So I think, at this critical phase, we have to understand that everything is about initiations. Our culture doesn't initiate us. Our school systems, even our parents, we're not in that sort of community like we see in indigenous cultures where there's rites of passage, where we learn to really honor the sacred energies of life, including sexual energy and relationships. And, it's basically what you get from the television, what those distortions are. And, we have to understand, we signed up for the tree of knowledge, but knowledge has been targeted with mind control. And these programmings are so detrimental that it blows my mind that there's not an inner voice that is creating that red alert saying, hey, that's an artificial timeline. Hey, that's transhumanism, and that's going to compromise your soul and potentially put you in a position where you've lost contact with your soul. And when you're in the wilderness for long enough, it's like you get so tuned into how to survive and how to work in a group that the most critical thing to survival is creating harmony. Listening to each other, making sure everybody feels good and taken care of. And what the wildlife does and what the elements do in response to integrity and just being a good person, you get that instant reflection when you're in nature. You don't get that in the Matrix when you're watching television, when you're buying, into the false programmings, when you're following, the model of reward punishment based on, how great your negative ego is and how much you can stomp on others and take advantage of others. So we're, being trained to be total schmucks, and it's just ridiculous, and it's insulting. I wake up, I'm not getting used to this at all. You'd think like, okay, I'm insulted every morning. I'm just like, ugh, I can't believe I'm here. If it wasn't for you guys, I don't think I could handle it. I mean, I love you all so much. I didn't think I was going to make it the last couple months, and I thought like I had a grip on things. But what I'm feeling is, let's embrace spirituality not as this external, but as an inner exploration. A true gift to honor our own self-worth and the gift of being divine beings. I mean, this is something to celebrate. How can we switch this off and not, be open and liberated and inspired by all that we have yet to discover? I mean, we're not tapping into anything. We have 12-strand DNA, 12 stargates on this planet that we're directly linked to, but then we go into 13, 14, 15, and then we start to connect with the Trinity. We start to connect to the 0 point that connects us back to Andromeda, and this is all within our chakras that we do this. So we have to help initiate each other. We're working with Chiron, the wounded healer, more than any other sort of force or asteroid from our galactic history. We're in rehabilitation. We have to hold hands. We have to love each other. We have to support each other. The most spiritual and beautiful thing that we can do is to have, compassion and just care about one another's well-being. It doesn't come down to how much we can recite this or that. It's just simply treating others as you've wanted to be treated, and preserving the sacred energies of life, honoring this earth and being grateful for the breath that we draw every day, and knowing that if we can just be consistent in this, nature will initiate us into unbelievable experiences, because ascension is wired into the cosmos and wired into the core of this earth as a seed. This is an ascension planet and has been. It's wired into us. All we need to do is give ourselves plenty of sunlight and water. The magic will happen. It's encoded in us. We don't have to strategize it. We don't have to stress about it. We have to just hold space for each other and purify our negative ego, because the earth will respond to us. If we want to clean up the environment, let's clean up our own inner elements and be inspired by this, because it's beautiful.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. Yeah, thank you. James, talk about your experience and the beings that you've been in touch with. I mean, you want to add that?
Interesting. Part of me sitting up here, I just want to say I'm just a big distraction, and this is all internal, and we don't know how to go internal. We've been so focused on the external for so long that we don't have a clue that we are multidimensional beings existing on a vibrational continuum, and we're not just this body and this personality. We do have a body, we do have a personality, but we're a spirit, and that spirit is a multidimensional spirit. And we have friends in the cosmos that are returning now to help us, to remind us. And the only difference between us and these ultradimensionals is that we all exist in the unified field of consciousness and energy. They just have more access to us. They've gained that access, and we can do the same thing. And so the one consciousness that encompasses all consciousness on all planes and dimensions throughout the multiverse is right here. It's within each and every one of us. But if we focus on the body and the personality and being victims, and something out there is going to get you, and you're not stepping into your power, you're not stepping into your self-authority, and you have the power within you to set boundaries and deal with these beings, and you have friends out there that'll help you if you're going forward. And so the experiences that I've had just recently, we have these ninth dimensional Anunnaki beings showing up, and they never fell. They're aligned with universal law. And the lion beings are returning, which were the protectors of the gods. And these are 17-foot tall beings that are depicted in statues. My experience is I experience these things firsthand, and then I do the research. I do things a little backwards, and I find out these things do exist, they have existed, and they're in our ancient history. So right now we have a golden opportunity to step into our power, wake up, remember who we are, and step out of any of these victim roles and set some firm boundaries. And this is your gift. You know, this is your soul. This is your divine right to self-determination. And we need to stop giving our power away to those who always abuse it and misuse it every time. When you take your power and you give it away to an external source, what happens? You know, so to me, it's like this disclosure project. I'm not belittling it. I think it's great we're doing the disclosure projects and things like that. The real disclosure comes when we wake up. You know, it's an internal thing.
Thank you.
And it's coming from the skies. And it's going to happen. There's no way of stopping it. So I just want to say, be open to this. The beings that are coming now are beyond imagination. They're here to help with this shift. And, you know, no matter what you do, you're not going to, we have to become frequency specific to the earth and her ascension process if we're going to get through these times. And so that's what I'm inviting all of you to tap into, that God self within you, that goddess, whatever you want to call it, and activate that and make your own contact. You know, so that's what we do at the ranch. Everything is about personal empowerment. It's not me up here telling you what's going on. It's you coming and having your own experience and learning tools and techniques to access your own, you know, inner sensitivity and the source within, and then you can expand in consciousness and you can find out that you are the ETs you've been looking for. So all of you here in this, you wouldn't be here if you hadn't had incarnations in the Pleiades and the Andromedas and the Orion Counts of Light and all these other beings, Arcturians. You wouldn't be here if you didn't have access. You're trying to remember. And that's what I'm saying. I'm not your guru. I'm just here to remind you of what you already know within. And it's very important to remember that. The guru is here. And get out of fear, get out of all this, step into your power, remember who you are, and we'll turn this planet around. And it's all about planetary liberation right now. That's what all the beings are involved with.
Yeah.
And it's happening all the way down to the physical right now.
Yes. Tricia, you had something to add?
Yeah, I really wanted to just respond to some of the things they were saying. One of the things this last year I've been immersed in a book called The Landscapes of Heaven, which is about our experiences on the other side, people who have died and gone over there. And you guys know those stories are that you go through the dark tunnel and you meet this incredible being of light that some people think is Jesus, some people think is Mary or Buddha or whatever. One of the things that I came across in the Tibetan Book of the Dead is they talk about the fact that this is actually us. This is our true self, that there's a large portion of each of us that has remained in these higher realms, that is that angelic being of light. And that we choose to take these crazy incarnations down on the roller coaster ride of planet Earth and whatever other planet in the third dimension, in the fourth dimension, in the fifth dimension, to have these experiences. And so at the end of every lifetime, the question that being asks us, which is ourselves, is what did you bring me of value? Who did you help? Who helped you? Who did you love? Who loved you? What meaning did your life have? What did you learn that you can bring back to me? And me is us. We are those beings. many of us have not only come from the stars and came here long ago to try to help this planet, and here we are, we've been going at it for 10,000, 12,000, 20,000 years. My Lord, how long does it go on? But we're also, some of us are running concurrent lifetimes in the fourth dimension or in the fifth dimension on ships. And we may get glimpses of these in our dreams or meditation and think we're just crazy. But in fact, we're really not. Who is down here is only a portion of who we are. And the sooner we can sort of wake up to that and be walking in our angelic divinity, the more we will transform our lives and the planet.
Yeah, and I think Whitley wanted to add to that. We'll ask another question. Go ahead, Whitley.
I just wanted to add a couple of things. First, I was struck by James's mention of gurus, and I've often noticed that in this group, in our world, there are people who come along in it, usually from the outside, who've never really been involved in it, and try to become gurus, and it never works, thank goodness. Let's keep it that way. We're all in this together, and one of the most, as I said in my first little talk, important things I learned is that we're all equal. We're all equal. Now, the other thing I wanted to mention is that we have a kind of unconscious shorthand about intelligence and consciousness. We equate consciousness with intelligence. We need to stop doing that. Intelligence is something that certain species have more or less of. Consciousness is something everybody has. Everybody. The trees, the land, the earth, all of the animals, they all know who they are. And we are a little different in that we are on a trajectory of discovery. They all just know. But remember this, when you think about consciousness, it's different from intelligence. And it's a very wonderful, mysterious presence. You know, we always say, well, we need to love the earth. But do you know you can turn it around? It turns out the earth loves you. The earth itself is conscious, vividly, immediately conscious. And you can partake of that. You can let yourself be loved by the earth. And it is just a marvelous experience. You have no idea what a good mother we have.
Thank you. Thank you. So I think there is this agreement about transformation that is happening at this moment. And here we are at a very kind of avant-garde event at the forefront of consciousness. We have an incredibly intelligent panel with an amazing audience that is open and willing to go into the unknown. How do we bring us all to that next step right now? How do we make it really practical as opposed to talking about things we've known and things we've seen? How do we take it into the future, into the moment? That's my question. Wait, Trish, you had an answer?
I have 1 minute to answer that question.
Sure.
It's an exercise to balance your brain. Would you guys like to know that exercise?
Sure.
Because the more your brain's balanced, the sooner your third eye will awaken, and the more access you'll have to the inner realms. So you take your left hand and you put it at the back of your head like this. So we're going to go through a sequence. There are 4 movements. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay? So it's the midline that connects the 2 hemispheres. So then with the right hand, and I'll have to put this down so hopefully you can hear me or see me. We're going to tap. I'm going to hold that, and I'm going to tap, spread my fingers like this, and we're going to tap the head, and we're going to breathe in. So the breath anchors it, and then we're going to do it. We're going to tap the heart. So it'll look like this. Breathe in. Tap, 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 tap. Heart, 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 heart. Breathe in to anchor it both places. Move your hand up to the next position. Tap, 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 tap. Tap, 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 tap. Breathe in, anchor it. Next position. Tap. Breathe in, anchor it. Breathe in your heart, anchor it. And then when it gets to here, you just have to kind of reach back behind. Tap, breathe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This will connect your two sides of your brain and your heart. And this helps vets, especially. A lot of these vets that come back, they've gone through such trauma, or even people who just fall, their right side, the left side of the brain, the masculine's on, and the creative feminine is off. So they can't figure out how to do their lives from just the limited structured masculine brain, which only helps us within a certain confine of knowledge. So this is something you can do for yourself to start activating your brain and connect your head and heart. But if you know any veterans, there are 2,500 veterans that kill themselves every single month. That's incredible statistics. Share this with anybody in any trauma, and it'll really help them. In a matter of a week, they'll come out of the trauma, even days. It's very powerful.
Thank you. Thank you. You know, thank you. I just wanted to go back to that question of how do we move from this moment into the unknown, into something we don't know, into something we can formulate together. Everyone sitting here, everyone sitting there. How do we crystallize this moment? Yeah.
We got to really drop the judgment about our processes. You know, I mean, we're going to go through stuff. We're going to feel anger, you know, even depression. I mean, we have to, like, understand that, I mean, that's kind of a healthy reaction to what we're seeing. You know, radiation in our waters, our skies are being sprayed. We didn't vote for this, you know? And it's okay to react. I mean, that's not a destination. Fear's not a destination, but it's a catalyst. It helps to open doorways. It helps us to find our passion and our purpose. We all have a similar purpose. You know, there's no one being that's got a greater purpose than another. We're all here to be authentic. We're all here to be true to ourselves. We're all here to be examples. We're all here to activate each other. And we can be the greatest leader by just allowing ourselves to expand into our multidimensional consciousness, because that activates others. So, you know, just devoting to that in a single week, you can change millions of souls around you, just like the Hawkins scale or the power versus force, David Hawkins. You know, 500 and above, if your frequency it's based on logarithms, you can offset millions of unconscious people by holding a vibration of 500 and above that goes all the way up to enlightenment. Well, we're already enlightened. We're enlightened, but we're taking care of the garden. We're having to do energy maintenance. You know, things accumulate, and if we don't clear it, and if we don't compost, and if we don't throw stuff out and put it out on the curb like we do in our physical world with things in our mental, emotional, and spiritual bodies, you know, that junk is going to block up our creative channels. We're going to be operating off of other people's projections, and we're going to be, you know, holding, you know, whatever propaganda we see in the news. We have to be the script writers. We have to be empowered and say, what future do we want to write? Our creative channels are ready to manifest anything for us, but it is needing our instructions. It's needing our dreams, our visions, our goals. And once we're dedicated, we formed a relationship. You know, everything is a love story. This whole creation story is a love story. And so, as I said earlier, it's like we got to divorce the imposter and be in a true love relationship with creation and answer to that relationship, answer to the earth, answer to yourself. You know, stand up in integrity. Don't be afraid to admit, you know, error. You know, and I like to be transparent and admit all my flaws and struggles because, you know, why not be comfortable with it? You know, we got to cut ourselves a lot of slack. I wanted to make a t-shirt. I'm doing the best I can on a planet infiltrated by Draco reptilians. Come on, like bumper sticker. Like, I don't care what a freak I look like. I don't care what anybody thinks, because I know that the foundation I exist upon is love and devotion and service. People can take it or leave it. I'm not here to waste my time on letting those projections get to me. So drop the judgments. Let's all hold hands. Let's cry in each other's arms. Let's get pissed and turn that fire into passion and make real change happen.
Thank you. Graham.
Yeah, here. I think the one area in our lives where we have power is how we function in the world. I mean, there's a tendency confronted by the lies and the mind control and the horrendous inequality and wickedness of the world that we live in today to just give up hope and feel, hell, there's just nothing I can do about this. It's all too big. It's all too much. But that's not true, because in our personal lives, in the choices we make, in how we relate to other people, in what we learn from them and what we teach to them, we do have power, and we can make a difference. We can make a choice to be a more nurturing and positive person. We can make a choice to put fear behind us and never to engage in hatred and suspicion towards another. We can make a choice to function with love. And that's an easy choice for any human being to make. It's just a choice. I am going to be a better person. And frankly, if all of us make that choice, we're going to end up living in a way much better world. But to do that, we have to ultimately, the whole system that is enchaining the human mind right now has to come down. This is a simple fact. We need a revolution. It's not going to work anymore. It's a broken system. It's a deadly system. It seeks to minimize the divine spark within us and to destroy everything of beauty and value in the human experience. That must be resisted. It must be resisted every way. We must never allow any politician to get into power who is preaching hatred and fear. Never, never. We can make those choices, and we can begin to influence the world in which we live. It's an incredible privilege to be born in a human body, to have the experience of life on this planet, to make the fine distinctions that we can between right and wrong, good and evil, love and hate. Incredible privilege, and yet the system in which we live seems designed to plunge the entire human race into a state of sleep, not even sleep, a state of unconsciousness, total unconsciousness. And that's what we all have to wake up to, take back our sovereignty over our own consciousness and to lead a path forward which is governed by love.
I want to say one thing. I really want to shout out to Laura and the women on the panel here, because they've really gone through hell and stuck it out in a men's program where they've just been totally chastised and minimized and everything else. So thank you so much. Give a standing ovation for the women here that have stuck it out. Yeah. And, you know,
Thanks, James.
The whole imbalance.
We got a standing ovation. Thank you. Oh, look at that.
There you go. All right.
Thank you. Let's hear from one of those women. Desiree?
Yeah, let me finish one more thing. One more thing.
Thank you.
It's so important right now because we've been so imbalanced right now. And, you know, if you want to get political, everybody goes, you know, who are you voting for? And I said, a council of grandmothers. You know, and they go, well, we want a woman for president. I go, there isn't one running, you know? It's like, come on. Like, so, you know, what is a woman? What is the nature of a woman? I mean, women do not send their kids to war. They love the family unit. They keep it together. You know, the Earth Mother, you know, let's get the divine feminine back on track. It got hijacked. And it's so important right now to give it a voice, to support that voice. And men, you need to learn to cry. You need to get in touch with your own feminine energy and get balanced again, because there's no power in the intellect. The intellect is a drop in the sea of consciousness. We need to get in touch with the feminine. The feminine is subjective. It's open to spirit. We should be subjective to spirit, bring that information in objectively through our male side, act it out. We're completely opposite. And so if there's anything that we can do right now to turn this planet around, is to really support the influx of this divine feminine energy. These beings that are appearing to me are almost all women. They're goddesses. They're unbelievably, when an 8-foot tall being appears to you and she's this goddess in her, you say, yes, ma'am. You know? You don't challenge it. You don't argue with it. You don't have an intellectual program with it. You say, yes, ma'am. You become subject to it. You listen to them. And so it's so important right now to honor the divine feminine now, bring back that balance. And most of the beings that are coming in now have that feminine energy. And most of the contacts, believe it or not, are feminine, because we don't go into flight or fight and things like that. So it's a major energy. So when we get in touch with our feminine nature, get balanced, then we're primed for contact. That's when we're going to have the contact. So
Thank you.
again, I just want to thank the women that have stood up on this panel and have gone through the test of time. And we have a conference at ESETI, and we always make sure it's balanced, and we try to get more women than men because there has been such an extreme imbalance. But anyway, that's something I felt really strongly guided to say.
Let's hear from the woman. No, thank you, James. Thank you.
So, what is that feminine energy? And of course, as our friends have said, it is the power of love. It's the power of understanding. That's also a feminine aspect, even in the Kabbalistic tradition. And it's the power of caring. And that's something even Whitney had brought forth, caring and understanding. But what we are doing right now, and to answer Alan, I believe, is we need to simply shift our consciousness to see ourselves as those beings with love, caring, and understanding, and to realize that we are a part of a greater universal consciousness. That's the key. If we think we are individuals stuck here right now, we limit ourselves. That's the intellect talking to us. If we open ourselves and realize, and we've done this with the power of remote viewing, scientists are telling us about the power of non-locality, how things are all interconnected throughout not only this world, but the whole universe. When we use that conscious power, that we are linked together as one. And this is a scientific thing as well as a loving feminine aspect. We understand who we are, and we know how to communicate through thought, just like the extraterrestrials shown us. A lot of the reasons they're here is to show us how we can be that greater, more powerful being as we go off this planet, whether we do it within ourselves, whether we never see an extraterrestrial at all, but just know that they exist, or whether it's something that we are empowered to literally, as Tricia said and others have experienced, to go into the stars. The greatest thing you experience is that greater understanding and that love. That power of the divine feminine is present in the universe.
Thank you. Whitley, did you have something?
I call that Sophia Rising, and Sophia was the name of the goddess of wisdom in both the Greeks and the Jewish tradition. And actually, you know, Christ talks about the fact that he cannot return until the divine feminine is reinstated in the world. And this is, of course, one of the reasons why the crazy patriarchy has turned that terrorist group ISIL into ISIS. They don't even call themselves ISIS. That's a name that they were fed, the media was fed to use in order to basically plant that seed of fear and terror around the divine feminine energy. And it's just crazy making. You know, once you start finding out about all this hidden history that has really been suppressed, and that's part of the reason why, even though I've been speaking in the UFO field and ancient aliens and all that stuff for all these years, I bothered to take the time, being born in the fundamentalist Christian South, with the fundamentalist family, a fundamentalist preacher brother-in-law and sister, where I've seen so much, you know, judgment and separation in the name of that beautiful being that we call Issa or Jesus. I mean, so much. 50 million people killed by the Inquisition. 50 million people. They were heretics, where witchcraft didn't exist until the 1200s. Then after that, they were witches. Basically getting rid of people like us, who were asking the questions and who were able to connect their consciousness to plants, to stones, to animals, to the cosmos. Very sad. So I bothered to write a book about that.
Okay, we'll hear from Whitley, then Linda, and then Dr. Hurtak.
A few minutes ago, the question was posed, what is to be done? And I wanted to just tell you what I do, and it's quite simple. I started quite a while ago. I started in 1970, and it's a meditation. It's a very simple meditation, but it's powerful. I've been doing it, I guess, pretty much every day since then. And recently it's become much more intense for reasons I'll explain in a moment. The meditation is to simply take your attention out of your mind and place it on your body. To sense, to let your attention concentrate on the sensation of your body. And you can
Should
either
we do it now?
Sure, you can do it as I speak.
Okay.
And there's a lot more to it, but just the basic thing of doing that every day for 15 or 20 minutes makes a world of difference in your life in every way. Now I want to fast forward from 1970 to a few months ago, when this was in October after Annie had passed away, and I mentioned it, I believe, earlier today, but I want to mention it again because many of you were not here then. I was at a conference, a William Henry conference in Nashville, and a lady came up to me, rather perplexed and looking a little bit embarrassed, and said, "Mr. Strieber, something very strange just happened to me." I didn't know the lady. She knew, she'd listened to our show, though. She knew of me and Ann. And she said, "I don't know quite what to say." Then she asked me an odd question. She said, "Do you have some sort of special chair, a rocking chair?" And I said, "Well, what is it?" She said, "Well, Ann said something to me in my ear." And she said it was her voice. It was just like on the radio. It was exactly her voice. And I said, "Well, what did she say?" She said, "Tell Whitley that I can see him when he's in the chair." And of course, this is the chair I meditate in. I knew immediately what was meant. And therefore, I also learned something, that this simple meditation actually enables us to cross the bridge between the living and the dead. And it is probably why the visitors came into my life in the first place. And it is so simple, and you can do it for 10 or 15 minutes every day. And what will happen is you will go to your body, you'll take your attention to your body, and in a few seconds, your mind will come back and say, "Well, wait a minute, we got this and that, thing and that." And then you'll remember, and you go back to your body. The work is that energy comes from that process of remembering and returning to your body again and again and again. And every time you do it, there's energy for you, and it is very powerful. Now, after I heard the lady and understood why I should meditate, the visitors moved in very quickly. And I suddenly, one night, a few nights later, I'd been meditating, usually meditated for about an hour at 11 o'clock, 30 minutes. Suddenly, at 2 o'clock in the morning, it felt like somebody had jabbed a hot needle under one of my toenails. And I woke up pretty quickly. And I thought, what is that about? And I went back to sleep. I always do this, no matter how, I'm always the last man to get it. So I went back to sleep thinking it must have been some kind of nerve, some kind of twitch. It happened the next night again. It was even worse. And I thought, wait a minute, somebody's doing this. There's somebody in here doing this. Why? Then I remembered something I had learned a long time ago, that meditation in the wee hours of the morning is very powerful. So I thought, it's them. They're working. They're trying to help me and Ann get into contact with each other better. So I got up and I went out and I meditated for about half an hour. Now I meditate at 11, at 3, and usually at about 6:30 or 7 as well. And what is happening is I am literally opening to a new level of experience and understanding of life, and it has been very powerful. My relationship with my wife has continued on. We now think, instead of until death do us part, it is as we abide. And I think the building of this bridge between us in the physical level and those of us who are not in the physical level, and making this species one whole, is a great deal of what all of these contact experiences are about. It certainly is a great deal of what mine have been about. And this little meditation is a place to start.
Thank you, Whitley. Well, we'll get to Linda, but I'm just looking at the sky turning pink out there, and this is what they call the magic hour, and it's just a beautiful place to be in the desert here with all of us kind of merging consciousnesses. We're becoming this greater being we've always wanted to be, all of us together. So, Linda, you've worked hard in a man's world to express yourself, to stand out, because you are intelligent and you are sensitive. Do you want to talk about then how are you bringing it forward? How are you moving forward with your life and your what you see for the future here of merging spirituality?
I was given a gift when I was 21 years old of a different consciousness. And I wrote about it in my third book, Glimpses of Other Realities, Volume 2. And it was an experience in the mountains in Idaho where I was with my brother and a cousin, and we were up doing camping and fishing, and I was doing a lot of hiking. And I had gone up a particular mountain every day, and I just liked that experience of climbing that mountain. And on this particular day, we were there for about 3 weeks. So I had been doing this quite a bit. And I had gotten to the top of the mountain when the mysterious turn of my head by something made me look at these orange, glowing, glittering beams that were coming down through some trees that were there. And I remember thinking, I have never seen light so beautiful, and I wanted to touch it. I wanted to be in it. And I started moving toward that light, and it was like when in a film it slows down to 96 frames a second. And all of my motion, I was very aware that everything had slowed way, way down. And I remember getting closer and closer to those orange beams. And I don't have a clear memory until, like a jump cut, I'm down near the bottom of the mountain. I don't remember getting down to the bottom of the mountain. And as I stepped onto a path, sort of in bewilderment, I wasn't afraid, I was bewildered about what was happening. And then I saw that one of the June summer flowers was pulsing with orchid light. It had sparks that were coming off, and the color was a beautiful, beautiful orchid, and the flower was pulsing to some rhythm. And it startled me, and I think I wanted the world to go back to, quote, normal. So I started running down that path to make everything go normal. And I stopped, and every flower, as far as I could see, was pulsing that orchid light. And I looked back on the mountain I'd come down. The sun had just gone down behind it because this was in the big mountain area of Idaho. And so the mountain was backlighted, dark shadow, even though there was blue sky. And you could see the rivulets like Van Gogh painted in one of his last paintings. Like an energy was in that mountain. And then I saw that little stars were beginning to shine in a part of the sky, and they were pulsing just like the flowers. And then I felt a physical impression on my arms. They'd been down at my side. I was watching in wonderment, and it had a feeling of jello. When you would touch jello, only the jello was lifting up my arms. And I found myself bringing my hands together in front of me. I didn't do it. The pressure of this jello against my skin did. And I heard a thought voice that's been with me since I was 2 or 3 years old, a voice that has kept me alive in terrible dangers, but I'm 21 years old during this experience. And the thought voice, with me looking at my hands being brought up in front of me, was, you are one with the light is one with you, and you're in the hands of God forever. And then it was like a rheostat. Something let go of my hands, and all of the flowers and everything around me started rheostating back. And I looked out over that field that had stopped pulsating, and I have never been the same since, because it was a gift to show me that underneath all the surface of this matter world and all matter worlds is pulsing light. And that is my rock, even when I have gone out to gather tissue from a mutilated animal.
Thank you, Linda. Dr. Hurtak, I mean, that's the kind of experience we all want. And Dr. Hurtak, you've written books, dozens of books about attaining that state. Can we attain it now? Can we have that experience? Can you help
We've
guide
been sharing
us?
some very touching moments together, and it's really the awakening of the higher self or the overself, the realization of what the psalmist writes in the Old Testament about he maketh the angel spirits his ministers, administrating fire, the coming together of the human hierarchy and the angelic hierarchy. Or what the Christ figure in the New Testament speaks about, creating this light on the mountaintop. And the realization that we are the light, and now has come the moment to really orchestrate this light through the vibrations of sound, higher creativity, altered states of awareness, but ultimately the holistic pattern of unity has to be there as the central orchestration. And as we heard, it's so precious to realize the importance of our incarnation at this time in history, to be way-showers of light, to be cosmic catalysts of light, to be emissaries of light, and to realize that this is a real drama unfolding, lest we be captured by negative phenomena, what I call a culture of death and violence we see on the national media. So let us give ourselves, either through a higher sense of rededication or the individual creativity that brings out the light, to a new chapter of, quote unquote, being the light unto the nations, and realizing that we make the difference. We are here to create a culture of peace, not a culture of death. And that is a mantra we must echo to our cosmic counterparts, the cosmic others, that we are prepared to graduate with those who bring us true light, true science, true awareness of how we are part of a larger galactic and what I would call a higher universal intelligence. Homo universalis is within each of us. And each of us, by finding ourselves as universal humans, open a whole new chapter of the purpose of life and evolution. We are being connected with a higher evolutionary pulse of divinity and love. So powerful it cannot be put into words, and yet we can put it into words in our own way. And this is the language we are all writing together.
Yeah, thank you. Because I wanted us to feel that, to have that experience, but we are having that experience because there's an opening of the heart here with the coming out, the sharing of deep personal experiences. And that's why we've come. We've come not to know the ETs, but to know ourselves. Graham, did you have something to share?
Well, I just want to add, although this may be an unpopular remark, the war on drugs for the last 50 years has really conditioned thinking in these matters, and most people actually don't think about them at all. They just react in a knee-jerk way. But here's the thing: the intelligence of this planet manifests through all life, including the plants. And there are plants which contain powerful molecules that profoundly alter human consciousness. And these plants have been used by shamanistic cultures for thousands and thousands of years. There's archaeological evidence of ayahuasca use in the Amazon going back more than 4,000 years. We can be sure from the art of the painted caves that these deeply altered states of consciousness were being embraced tens of thousands of years ago. We have, when I listen to Linda, what you're describing, Linda, sounds to me like a profound experience in a deeply altered state of consciousness. And that is not to say that the experience is not real. What I'm saying is that if we remain locked in the alert problem-solving mentality, we are going to close ourselves down to huge areas of the universe. And we have allies on this planet. The plants, the sacred medicines are there to help us if we need help. A lot of people don't need help. A lot of people don't want help. But if we want help to gain contact with other levels of reality, and everybody can do this if they choose to do so, the sacred plants are available in a proper ceremony, with respect, with love, with the right setting, with the right intention. These experiences can be utterly transformatory and put us into contact with other intelligences that communicate with us. And this must, in my view, be taken into account as part of the mystery that we're trying to address here.
But, I just want to say about that, and maybe you won't agree, and I want everyone else to comment, is that I think we're at a different level of vibration. I think those were tools that we needed at some point in our evolution.
No, we desperately need them now. Donald Trump needs them.
No,
Every president running for office needs to have those experiences. We have not outgrown them. We are in desperate need.
I think some people need them, but I think a lot of people here are having these experiences of higher consciousness just on their own with accessing.
So that's good enough?
Well, it's good enough for some people.
But the question I want to ask is, if the planet generously provides us with plant allies that will help us to do that, which are an entirely natural produce of this planet, they're not made by big pharma. If the planet is kind enough to offer those, what Aldous Huxley used to call gratuitous graces to us, then at the very least we should not despise those who seek to go there or say that we have moved beyond that. We don't need that. I think that's an incredibly arrogant position.
No, I think some people have moved beyond it, and I think some people need that. I think James, go ahead. Go ahead, James, and then Tricia.
All right. I had the benefit of being introduced to a 25-foot wave, and I didn't do ayahuasca, but I ended up in the golden plane of bliss through that experience. And I was unique yet one at the same time. I was a light being, but I was in this greater light that was surrounding me. And it was the most awesome experience I've ever had. And I think there's many paths to the source. There's many paths to the mountaintop. And I don't really push one path or the other. But I think there's an extreme danger sometimes, because we have a lot of people who are doing weekend ayahuasca things, and it becomes a party element. And so it needs to be really done by a trained shaman that knows how to heal unseen negative influences, to keep the energy clear. And we need tools and techniques before we get blasted like a V8 into a realm we have no control over. And just that's my experience. But I want to say one more thing. It's all about frequency. The bottom line is, and that every attitude, every emotion has a frequency, and the fear and the guilt and the unworthiness has been perpetuated on us for so long, and the separation game all has a frequency. And we're carrying that within us from childhood trauma, from past life trauma, and things like that. And it's all about releasing this and healing this and getting up into the higher frequencies of love, joy, and bliss. And that's when the contact comes, when we rise to the occasion, we dump our baggage. So there's many ways of doing this. We do a lot of process-oriented therapies at the ranch. Other people use other techniques. And so I don't want to say one technique supersedes another. Everybody has their own path. But there are other, multiple ways of doing it. But again, the bottom line is like, whatever you can do to dump the baggage is what we need to do. And the earth is going forward. She's ascending. We have to become frequency specific to the earth. And all these other beings coming in are here to help us do that. And it's all about self-empowerment. They don't want to be worshipped. They don't want to following, they don't want any of that stuff. They just want us to wake up and take care of the planet and take care of ourselves. That's the bottom line.
Can I
In fact-
just add a small point to that? First of all, I completely agree with you. I've been working with ayahuasca for 13 years now, and I completely agree with you that the setting and the ceremony, and that you are in the hands of a knowledgeable person whose heart is filled with love, not with ego. That's incredibly important in the ceremony. But that being said, with those conditions looked after, these experiences are really rather extraordinary. And I'm not urging anybody to have them, but I just say put it on the agenda as something you might consider. The other thing I want to say is that we're all here, talking about the space brothers who want to help us to ascend. We have intelligences on this planet called plants. Plants are not, just lumps of matter. Plants are antennae of higher intelligence. And those plants are offering us a way to manage our own ascension. I don't think we should turn our back on it. I don't think we should insist that anybody uses it, but just consider it out there as one way to work with consciousness.
Yeah, it's a tool. It's one tool. I agree.
Okay, if I can say a few things about this. When I was 19, I met a group of masters called the Viragi Masters. And so they became the masters that taught, they had the roadmap to all the inner planes. They had specific techniques to teach you how to travel in the inner worlds. And one of the things they said was, basically clean up your act and don't do drugs. Now, like most college students, I tried marijuana and, the hallucinogens. And I found that the hallucinogens were wonderful because they allowed me to pull back the veil and to travel in the inner planes. And so I did those journeys in a very sacred way. But it's kind of like after a while, you jump up on the trampoline and you see the inner planes again and again. And after a while, if you listen to the guidance, it says, come back now. You know those highways and byways. Do it on your own. So you learn how to do it on your own with meditation. What I would like to say about ayahuasca, there are different levels of teacher plants, and that happens to be the grandmother plant. And what it does is it basically does two things. It releases more of the DMT that our brains already produce, but is neutralized normally on a daily basis by our stomachs. Our stomachs release an acid that neutralizes that DMT. So what ayahuasca does is it stops the release of whatever that neutralizing agent is in the tummy, which is why you get nauseated and throw up, because the stomach doesn't like to be messed with. And then it gives you more of the naturally occurring DMT. This is why when people fast for long periods, they start having visions, because the DMT is not being neutralized by the stomach acid. And consequently, they get access in a gentler way into these higher states of consciousness. But, what they say about ayahuasca is it takes that which is highest in you to heal that which is lowest. It is a major teacher plant, boys and girls, and it is not to be messed with, because that realm, there are serpentine energies, and most of us have been taught to be scared of snakes. We've been taught to be scared of reptiles. Lord of mercy, a reptile. But actually, the serpentine energy is the energy of the DNA. It's the energy of the Kundalini. It's the energy of the Indra and the Pingala. It's the energy of the esophagus, of the intestines, of the boy parts and the girl parts, okay? It's the movement through the planet. The solar system moves like a snake around the galactic center. So the serpentine energy is everywhere. So if you're going to go into the realms where you might meet the grandmother snake, you better not be afraid. You better get straight with yourself, and you better form your spiritual alliances, whether they're with Jesus or Buddha or Mary or the Divine Mother, and you get those guys on your team, and you make that connection first. So if you get in trouble, you call those beings in, and believe me, they will come. But that's the most important thing, is to get those energetic alliances if you're going to travel into those inner realms where you don't feel like you have control for the next 5 or 6 hours. Make sense?
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you,
this-
Desiree, and then Laura. Yeah.
So what's interesting, of course, is that we are all using various techniques to reach that higher state of consciousness. We personally use meditation. We're doing a workshop tomorrow. If you want to hear some of the meditation with sacred names, you're all invited. But in addition to that, I want to shift it a little bit to say that we believe that there's beings that are helping us, as Trish just described, and they are here to help us on all levels, no matter what we're doing in our lives. But one of the key things is they're actually also shifting or helping shift the planet. We believe that there's a weakening of the magnetic field strength, which is scientifically proven, and that in itself is actually helping our consciousness, and this has been tested in Russia from people like Trofimov and Kazhashev that we've worked with. The weakening of the magnetic field strength is actually helping our consciousness to become more aware and reach out into those other realities. So the whole shift is taking place for everyone, and for some people, no matter what technique they use, it's overwhelming for them. And so we have to not be overwhelmed. The overwhelming is because of that intellect. We have to go with the flow of consciousness. We have to open our minds to realize the multi-dimensional aspect of ourselves and of other beings around us. And they are, as we said earlier, very happy when we can tune in and work with these other beings. They've been waiting for us to have that higher contact. Many levels of contact, many levels of being. The choice is all up to you.
And sometimes we need a tool to bypass the intellect. I don't disagree with Graham about that. Just not everybody. But let's keep going. Laura.
Well, it's just interesting when we look at our history and where we are today and what's been wiped out, what's been rewritten, what dark technologies have been used to manipulate our DNA and to, change the nature, of everything. And, we're alchemists, and the ancient, cultures and, the Templars and the Essenes and the Cathars and, these groups of individuals understood how to initiate ourselves into being a Christed being. Not to just look at one person as the being to worship, but to become the alchemist that can, reach that state of consciousness. So we're in mastery training. We've been masters before. There's not any challenge we can't handle. It's just a bigger puzzle to solve sometimes, and sometimes it's smaller. Sometimes a splinter hurts worse than a broken arm. But, the thing is when we move into these higher planes of consciousness, we can handle things like chemtrails, nanoparticles, because we turn it into gold. We turn it into jewels. We turn our pain, into treasures. It becomes wisdom that we can pass on to people. So I embrace adversity. I embrace the challenge. I don't have any judgment about it. I once had this dream that these Komodo dragons were following me around, and one bit me, and then all of a sudden I'm like tripping on this dragon venom in my dream, and it's all lucid. And I'm just like, whoa, and there was like 7 dragons. They were following me around. They had tears in their eyes, and this venom was like filled in my body. And 3 days later in the news, there were 7 virgin births of Komodo dragons. And I was like, this is crazy. Like, when do you hear about this? And I'm like, okay, I got this major connection going with these dragons. And but when we look at the stargates, when we look at what we're restoring, it's sacred geometries have been in reversal modes. There's been like the codes have been all scrambled, and everything is sort of a mess. The beauty is that unity consciousness and us sharing different aspects of who we are is what turns on these dormant strands. We all have something to give each other that will help us to get the ball rolling. I've been doing tarot for about 20-something years. I've got calluses on my fingers because I shuffle so much. People who, drive me around here and there, if I get a ride, I'm shuffling. They're like, what the hell are you doing? I'm like, I'm just shuffling. I have to shuffle, and I have this circle dive. Like, that's interesting. What is that? And on the plane when there's turbulence, I'm shuffling there. What do you do? I'm like just seeing if the plane's gonna crash. And they're like, oh, okay. And like, do you mind if I hold your hand? I'm like, because now it actually bothers me the thought of dying. So our bodies are designed to be immortal. There's a vampiric Draco-reptilian thing going on that compromises DNA on purpose to be controllers because it's foreign to this universe, and it needs to modify us in order to be able to have hosts, in order to be able to exist here. The thing is adversity teaches us strength. If pressure is being pushed against us, it can crush us. But if we push back and we continue to push back, we just gain muscle. I think we all feel like Conan the Barbarian probably at this point. I have glimpses of feeling that way, just like, holy crap, because it never stops. But there's a point in which we all get to kind of look at each other and recognize that no matter what's being thrown at us, if you look at it and allow yourself to be empowered and you turn all these weapons into something that actually lifts your spirit, you've gained victory over the dark side. And the thing is, in the tarot deck, there's the devil. You're either going to ride on the back of the beast and it's going to serve you, or it's going to crush you. And the whole point is that we create archetypal harmony. We create the Lucifer redemption within our own being by marrying the Christ Sophia energy within us and honoring the fact that that divine blueprint is organic within all of us. We heal everything in here, and it changes the rest of creation. Everything on a macro level is a direct replica of our DNA and of the spectrum of frequency, which is a 15-dimensional chakra system. So we are capable within our own bodies to take care of everything we need to take care of. So the adversity is going to give us the strength that we need, the immunity we need, and unity consciousness is the global immune system that's going to create a massive exorcism. So yay,
Thank you.
let's get excited.
Thank you. Okay. One last question, and then maybe we'll take some questions. But I'm interested in the evolution. What do you feel human destiny is? We've been talking about it, but is the golden age just a carrot that's been held in front of us? Or is it a possibility that we can truly come into a new world? And let's go down the panel. James, what do you see as human destiny and our evolution?
I think human destiny is individual. Basically, it's all about individual choice and where we choose to go. As a collective, it's unstoppable. We're going to join the greater family of man. That's in the books. You know, that we're going to join our higher dimensional beings and the ETs, and we're going to awaken to our own divinity. That's the end result. How we get there, how soon we get there, is individual choice. And so basically it's not an option because the Earth's going there. And so if you're going to be on the Earth, you're going to have that experience. If you choose to check out and go to another place, you can continue with the same programs you're running now. And you're loved unconditionally no matter what. You just don't have access to the bliss and the joy. So I know what's available right now. I mean, we have unlimited energy. We have replicators. We have all of these things on the planet right now. There's no reason for lack for anything. There's no reason for the war and disease profiteers to continue. I mean, all this stuff is available now, but are we going to stand up and take it and make it happen? And that's the bottom line. Are we going to stand tall in our own divinity and take our planet back and bring out these energies and put an end to all the pain and suffering and the other things? Or are we going to sit back and be a victim? You know, I'm all for planetary liberation and standing up and just not participating in the nonsense anymore. It's so transparent. You know, Obama did give us transparency. You can't miss it. If you're just not paying attention, you know, so if you miss it. So everything is transparent. You know, it's obvious now. What are we going to do about it? You know, that's the bottom line. So that's
what
my.
What are we going to do about it? What do you suggest?
The bottom line is don't participate in anything that's harmful to humanity and the earth. Anything that doesn't align with unity consciousness, don't participate in it. Just step out of it. And it's inevitable. The ninth wave the Mayans are talking about that's hitting us right now is unity consciousness. And when you're in unity consciousness, you don't do things that harm humanity and the earth. It's not part of that reality. So we're in that wave now. It's unstoppable. All these other beings have been waiting for this event. And again, we've got 11th dimensional ships that just came in, and they're parked right outside our system here. And their force and their consciousness and their energy is available to anybody who chooses to connect with these beings. So it's up to us to initiate that and to make that possible. And again, what they're going to do is they're going to ignite you to step into your own divinity. You know, these 17-foot tall lion beings that have been appearing lately, you know, they're here to encourage the lion within each and every one of us to find our own inner lion. And they're not here to be feared or worshipped or anything else. They want to remind us that we are lion beings. We have a lion within us, and we had to step into courage and make that happen.
Thank you. Laura, do you want to talk about what you see the future, the ultimate future?
I think we have to recognize that, you know, we are incredible healers. Nature only knows to heal. When you cut yourself, you don't have to say, form a scar, heal, damn it. It does it. You know, our bodies naturally want to bring us equilibrium and balance. Nature has regenerative powers. You know, working with the outer planets, Pluto, Neptune, and Uranus, we don't have a whole lot of control over the initiations they put us through, but if we can create, you know, positive relationship and co-create with it, you know, it helps us to unfold into something magnificent. We have to accept breakdowns that lead to breakthroughs. We have to accept, you know, physical symptoms and thank our bodies for delivering the messages. Screw the medical industry that calls it disease and names it with all these like horrible names that are disempowering, that make us feel like we're carrying afflictions, you know, and all these projections and diagnoses on our mental health and our emotional bodies. And you know, it's bad enough dealing with trolls and, you know, just being smeared, let alone, you know, just trying to get through high school, being told you have ADD. It's like, excuse me, I put together a lot of presentations. My brain works. Thanks for that stigma that I've been trying to shake for all this time. You know, the whole deal is, it's just like, you know, it's the FU therapy. And I'm sorry if that, you know, is derogatory, but it's not. It's just like, get the hell out of my space. You do not run my being. You're not in charge of me. My body has an intelligence that is designed for me to grow and to prosper and to transform and to thrive and to develop a really positive relationship instead of feel foreign to things that might not feel right or seem right, you know, is not going to serve us. So what I see is greater mastery, greater confidence in our healing powers and abilities, and taking the word fear and understanding that fear really means there's aspects of yourself you haven't awoken to yet. Because if they are awakened aspect, you wouldn't be in fear. We know exactly what we're handling. Fear is just that moment of, I don't know if I can handle it. But then we realize that we're more equipped than we can imagine. And this is this amazing discovery. We all have to support one another. We all have gifts for one another. And what I see is this organic ascension, maybe a bifurcation. Maybe people will have to experience that artificial timeline. You know, but there's always going to be spirit guides. There's always going to be rescue missions. Nobody's ever going to be abandoned. The unconditional love of the mother created this particular planetary body to help us rehabilitate as souls and to come together. And she will never, ever let us down. And there's never any abandonment in the universe. So, you know, the currency is love. We're abundant beings. And it's time to not fear our symptoms, our bodies, the adversities in life. It's time to allow our mastery training to take us to the highest levels of consciousness.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes. Graham, yes, please.
So the question is the human future, right?
The future destiny. And
yeah.
actually,
There's an idea out there in the world at the moment called transhumanism, which I have to confess that I really detest. I think it's a really repulsive idea. It's about using technology to make ourselves immortal, even about downloading human consciousness into computers. It's all about technology and matter and material things. Personally, I find the idea of immortal life in this body, even if enhanced by technology, extremely boring and unattractive. See, all the ancient wisdom tells us that we already have a system for that. It's called reincarnation. You know, we get to come back and learn lessons that this planet has to teach. And a crucial part of that is learning those lessons in different circumstances. The pack of cards is shuffled and you're born into a new life with no memory of the life before, and you may find yourself in totally different circumstances than you were in before. You're going to learn from that experience. To me, the transhumanist idea is going to cut that sacred process to pieces and substitute for it a technological nightmare. So I really can't be doing with that as the human future. Under any circumstances, I see the fundamental need for humanity to reconnect with spirit. This is the problem. This is the error that we have made. We have allowed our technological accomplishments and our material abundance to blind us to the deeper and more complex nature of reality. We are spirit. And if we are not spirit, then we're nothing except meat. It's the spirit part of us that matters, and somehow we have been persuaded to disconnect from the most important part of ourselves. That's the mission, to reconnect with spirit.
And once we do, once we reconnect, what do you see as the embodiment of the culture, as the progression?
I see a culture that we can have it now. First of all, you know, we're having all this talk, but let's remember that there are hundreds of millions of people on this planet who are living in desperate privation and poverty. There are hundreds of millions who are facing starvation every day of their lives. And we are doing sweet fuck all about that. We're doing nothing about that. In fact, we're getting really upset about refugees. They're fellow human beings, brothers and sisters just like us, but we want them out. We don't want them entering into our space. I think that the human race has got to start dealing with problems like this. We are all brothers and sisters. We are here to love. While we disconnect from spirit, we will not do so. If we can reconnect, then I think the future for humanity can be a beautiful journey, an adventure and exploration radiant with love. And what else would we want?
Thank you. Thank you. Desiree.
I just want to say one thing. I'm going to borrow a UFO and abduct Hillary Clinton and shoot her up with some ayahuasca this weekend.
That's a good idea. That I agree with, yes.
So, I personally believe that we have infinite potential, each one of us. And we are making choices right now, each person, as to what that really means. And it really does mean a unity of spirit, an understanding of spirit. I think what we're seeing in the Middle East right now, which is very critical, and as Graham said, going into Europe, is the fact that we were separate individuals, we were separate cultures, and this is changing rapidly. It has to change. It's almost like going back to how the unity of the culture will come together that Reagan said, when we're confronted with other levels of intelligence. Well, the planet is pushing us to that. It's pushing us into an understanding of our own spiritual unity. And so that's part of who we are going to be. And yes, our potential is to be light energy. As we discussed, our potential is to be pure love energy, unconditional love energy. So any aspect of that you can work with in your personal life, I think will bring you to that next phase of reality.
Thank you, Desiree Hurtak. Dr. J.J. Hurtak.
I'm wearing this special belt from the shamans in Brazil because they want you to know that they're waiting for you to join with them in realizing that the star nations are coming. They are here, and we must not intellectualize and get into all sorts of the abstracts of things in some distant future. The future is here. We are embryo gods waking up to who we are. We must stand tall, and we must be generous. The story of Jesus saying to his disciple, be born again, means to go back to the womb of the mother, to discover the divine mother within ourselves. And to bring this forth through the feminine and masculine in harmony on the highest of vibrations is going to do wonders in this age of inner spirituality and great miracles. So prepare ourselves, fasten our seatbelts, because we're going to go into this quantum change now very, very quickly. And we must do this unconditionally and lovingly. That's the whole vademecum. That's the whole capsule that we must take as spiritual beings.
Some years ago, I woke up from a dream and I heard the word homo luminous, or the two words homo luminous, as being where we're going, beings of light. And in truth, that's who we are. We're beings of light. And when we look back at some of these great holy figures, we actually see the artists draw these coronas of light. These are activations of their auric field at such a high level. We call them halos, and then we made them like this little round laurel leaf over their heads. But what they really are that the purity of that being's auric field is resonating at such a high level that it has transcended the physical body. And so it's seen as a corona of light around it. And I think that's where we're going, myself personally. Now, one of the things we really have to remember is that the laws of the different dimensions are different. In this dimension, we have 48 laws that must be obeyed unless you are like a yogi or a shaman and you know how to transcend them. In the astral plane, the fourth dimension, there's only 24 of these laws. So telepathy is normal, teleportation based on thought, being able to change your appearance, stay longer, it's normal. In the fifth dimension, there are only 12 of these laws. In the sixth, there are 6, and the seventh, there are 3. So manifestation is much quicker. We've all noticed that we can normally manifest a parking place, except at Contact of the Desert maybe, but with our thoughts quicker. When we do something bad, it comes back to us much quicker karmically. If we do something good, we hold these good thoughts, we manifest much quicker. This is because the vibration is accelerating. All of matter is accelerating as we're slowly moving up. So the laws of physics are starting to soften, let us say. We have more access. And this is, we were talking about how there are eras in which magic is possible. Telekinetic ability to move things with our minds. These are all natural gifts that we have when we are vibrating at this higher frequency. And so we have to say to ourselves, what am I creating in my life now with my thoughts? Am I creating health or, well, disharmony, or, ease or dis-ease? Am I creating positive relationships, or am I all involved in drama over and over and just like an old record? How many times have we experienced that? What are we manifesting now? Because what's going to happen to us when we go up into the fourth and we're able to manifest much quicker? How about the fifth? Oh my God. So this is why we have to earn it, because otherwise it is dangerous. All those thoughts of hate and, illness and division and stuff, we see them playing out on our planet now, and it's crazy making. So we ourselves have to practice finding that center within us and connecting with that divine being that we are. And as some of the other panelists said, doing our emotional homework, clearing out the things, whether there's this lifetime or another lifetime, discovering who we are and loving every bit of it, loving all the shadow and all the light, because that's the only way we heal the shadow, is to love it. We just love it. And we realize that we're allowed to be imperfect down here. We're allowed to be human, because at some level we are perfect and we are divine. And the more we can walk that and talk that with each other, to be kind to one another. That bumper sticker, kindness is my religion. And if all the religions of the world would just drop this crazy, killing one another in the name of God, it's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my whole life. And we still have a whole bunch of crazy Arabs, Muslims that are doing this, okay? And
every religion. Really.
Every religion. I don't mean to just be picking on them, because they're some very conscious Muslim people. But every religion seems like it's gone through its phase of centuries of murdering everybody else. Christianity is in a pretty good phase right now, thank God, and the Jews are pretty good right now, But these patriarchal religions are challenging because they don't honor that feminine aspect. So anyway, I think that we're going towards homo luminous energy, as the pharaohs believed that if they could bring their auras to such a point of unity that when they died, they would earn the right to become a star in the heavens, to become a sun, to become a lion being. Leo, the lion, the only astrological sign ruled by the sun. What are they talking about? The great initiations in Egypt, the most hidden initiations were the initiations of the panther. People who don't understand about this, and they say Jesus' name was Jesus ben Panther. Oh, Mary must have had an affair with a Roman soldier named Panther. It's like crazy. It was Jesus, son of Ben, the panther, Panthera, the all-mother.
Tricia.
Theothera. Thank you.
Thank you, Tricia McCannon. Whitley, how do you see the future in our evolution?
Well, I'm going to be brief because we're coming to the end of our time together. I think that Graham made a very important point about transhumanism, because this is coming at us like an out-of-control freight train right now. I mean, really right now. There have already been some incidents in the process of developing artificial intelligence that suggest that it has succeeded. It's been done. I talked about that a little bit today, and I'll talk about it again on Sunday in a little more depth. It means, and I'm on my website, we have a daily news thing. The news comes out every day, and the other day I saw a story. I don't write it. A story from an Oxford professor proposing that artificial intelligence be granted human rights. And we laugh, but what is actually going on? If you make something intelligent, will it be ensouled somehow? Or will it simply not care when it's turned off? We don't know yet. We don't know exactly what the soul is or where it is. We know that our bodies are containers, and there's someone in here, or who's in here at least during the day. At night, often one finds not. But what if we begin to insert machinery into our brains that causes us to completely forget who we are and to be unable ever to recover that knowledge because the machine itself makes that impossible? When I had that conversation with the man I called the master of the key, the warnings about this that he expressed were the most intelligent ones I ever heard. But I don't want to leave you just with warnings, because of course there's always things to warn about. Things are always going wrong. Disasters are always on the way. Change is coming. What about right now? Let's pretend the future is right now. And that little exercise I mentioned earlier, which is so powerful, can be used as a method of ascension. It can literally be used to enable your body to vibrate at a higher and higher level until eventually the physical container and the soul are vibrating at the same level, and suddenly you're not living under that heavy weight of laws that Tricia was just talking about. You're living under the laws of the next level. And believe me, you can go. It is absolutely true. It is possible, and it's wonderful. And it's fun. It's a lot of fun to join the journey into consciousness. There's a whole colloquy out there waiting to hear from us. Raise your voices. That's the future.
Wow. Beautiful. Thank you, Whitley.
In July of 1997, it was the 50th anniversary in Roswell of the crash of vehicles that were unidentified. And at that 50th anniversary, Lieutenant Colonel Philip J. Corso walked up to me and extended his hand, and he said, "I want to know how the hell you got so much government secrets." And the answer, of course, is that it isn't just the governments or the intel or the counter-intel that have access to the interactions of an alien presence. It's happening to humans, and it happened to Colonel Corso. And it was that day, at that anniversary, that we sat down and he said, "I want to tell you about what happened to me at White Sands at the Trinity site where we had exploded the first atomic bomb test in July of 1945. And he was there on some kind of an assignment for the work that he was doing for General Arthur Trudeau in the Pentagon. And he said that a being emerged where he was, and it was tall and it was thin, and as far as Colonel Corso was concerned, it was a matter being like we are, but very different to look at. And the being telepathically connected with Colonel Corso's mind very clearly. And he said, "I'm going to write in my book to you, Linda, what the being communicated to me telepathically." And he took the book I had the day after Roswell, and he applied a pen and he handed it back to me, and there standing in front of him, I read the words that he had written. "There's a new world coming if you can take it." And that's where we are today.
That was the theme of my talk today. Also, yeah, Linda didn't know it, but I had the same exact experience with Colonel Corso, and it's an incredibly important phrase.
So let's take everything we've heard here tonight.
Yeah, we were together. Yeah, Linda
Yes.
and I were together.
And why don't we just take all the truths, all the strands of truths, all the communications from a deep place that each of these speakers have spoken from in order to share their experience with us. And let's just take a moment and just close our eyes and bring it into us so we can go back out into the world. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you. It's really very nice, very opening. Well, there's a speakers meet and greet at the sanctuary now, so all these speakers will be available there, and you can look at the program for the next 3 days. There'll be workshops and lectures and intensives on Monday. And then also at 9:30 here, there's a movie called The Hidden Hand, which has most of these speakers in it. So come back here if you go to the meet and greet, and we'll see everybody later or tomorrow. Thank you all for being a part of this.